Hello everyone, thanks so much for tuning to Sin's Workshop. I hope you are all having a wonderful day. So, today we're going to be doing my June wrap-up. I can't believe it's already July. It's wild how fast time just flies sometimes. So, let's just get into it, shall we? I don't even remember what my goal was. What was it, like 18 books? I think we all knew that wasn't going to happen. I knew it wasn't going to happen, but it's nice to set myself up for high expectations. I did, however, get to read 13 books, which is one more than I read last month. So I did a whole lot of changing this month when it came to like how I read. You guys know I am part of book clubs, and then I have my whole system of how I read, and I changed my system just a smidge. That I think that's why I was able to read a whole extra book this month. So first book was The Dangerous Ones by Lauren Blackwood. I cannot stress this enough. This book is amazing. I've already reviewed it on my channel. If you've already seen it, you already know that I love this book. It's a 5-star book for me. It's just adrenaline pumping. It's so reminiscent of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, and you're following not only a colored former slave girl who is just like on a mission of revenge, but you also have her love interest Alexei, who, I mean, he's just amazing. He's so sweet, and their height difference is just so cute. I love how he teases her about it, but he's also one of the kindest characters in the books, and someone she can relate to, not just as a love interest, but as a friend. And for her, it's like mind-blowing, because it's like, not only is he a vampire, and she hates vampires, but he's also a white man, and she is a former slave from a plantation. So, a phenomenal book. Highly recommend it. After that, I read Dreadful. This was a cute, cozy fantasy. I'm totally in my cozy fantasy phase right now, which, not surprising for me. I do love cozy books. I think I say that to a lot of people, and they look at me and they're like, seriously? You like cozies? It's like when I say I like rom-coms. Like, yes, I like rom-coms. People are shocked because it's just like my whole gothic exterior is just like, oh, so you actually do have... I'm a marshmallow. I'm a marshmallow. That's it. I can't say that enough. But I do love cozy fantasies, and Dreadful is another one that I did read. I mean, your main protagonist, Gab, he's kind of an idiot, but he's a sweet idiot, because he wakes up, he has no memory of who he is. He is a dark wizard, and he's like, you know what, I don't really want to be a dark wizard. So he's on this whole journey path to not to expose himself as having amnesia, and wanting to foil this evil plot that he is apparently a part of, but also, you know, he wants to save the damsel in distress, but, you know, she is the one who ends up saving him, and I like that little twist there. It was fun, it was quirky, it was funny. Thoroughly recommend. After that, I read Bad Graces by Kyrie McCauley. I can't stress this enough. I love Kyrie McCauley. All of her books are 5-star books for me, and this was no exception. It's phenomenal. If These Wings Could Fly, We Can Be Heroes, All the Dead Lie Down. I gave each of those books 5 stars, and this one gets 5 stars. I mean, you've got these girls, they're stranded on the island, and you think that maybe they're going to turn against each other, kind of like Lord of the Flies or Yellow Jackets, right? No. Instead, they form their own little found family, and it has some Annihilation vibes in there as well, because the island is changing them, and it's really haunting, and it's kind of scary, but it's all about, like, femininity and sisterhood, and how young girls can be manipulated and taken advantage of at any time in their lives, and how a vicious cycle just continues to repeat. But when they're on this island, they find themselves, and they really discover their own power in a way. And it was so moving and gothic and scary at the same time. It was just such a good story. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely love it. After that, I read Pillow Talk. This is a graphic novel. It was a gift from the publisher. I don't really read a whole lot of graphic novels. I think my main exception to that rule, I used to read comic books all the time. I just haven't had time. You know, life happens. But I think my main exception is Lore Olympus. So I was really kind of surprised when I got Pillow Talk in the mail. I was like, oh, it's a graphic novel. I'm like, I must not have read that description properly. It was cute. I did enjoy it. I wanted a little bit more backstory regarding her family life, because you have your main character and she suffers a lot from insecurity. She discovers this kind of like roller derby wrestling pillow fight competition, and I like the undertones of it. You know, they're taking back the stereotype of what it means to have a pillow fight and turning it into something that's like really punk and really somewhat masculine in a way, instead of just like, oh, girls in their nighting gowns pillow fighting, you know. It's fun. I do like the message of owning your sexuality and then in a way kind of using it to empower yourself. So she becomes Cinderella, and she does make the remark of having a wicked stepmother, and we don't really get to see her dynamic with her family pretty much at all. There are some mentions here or there, but I think if the story had focused more in on that, I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more, because it would have given the main character a little bit more depth and a little bit more well-rounded history to really explain, because we all kind of feel insecure at times. I mean, that's human nature. We just often feel insecure. And, you know, especially with everything being on social media, a lot of the times, you know, it's really hard not to let things online, like, really get to you, right? So when she does let them get to her, I wanted a little bit more backstory so that there was a little bit of a stronger emotional impact. But otherwise, it was good. I read The Wren and the Holly by K.A. Lind after that. I read Tower Books' book. This was one of my highly anticipated reads of the year. Beauty and the Beast, Six of Crows vibes, Heist. It was really, really hard for me to get into. I've already reviewed it. You can check out my review on my channel. It was really, really... It was hard, okay? It was so slow for that. It's not even a really long book, but that first half of it, it drags. It's a little slow. I wanted a little bit more sexual tension between the characters, which I know is funny coming from me, considering I don't really like romance. But when you have the story and it's supposed to be about heists, and you know it's a romantic scene, so you're expecting that romantic tension, I wanted it to be a little stronger in that first half of the book, because that first half, it's slow. It is slow. There's a whole lot of world building. There's a lot of history. I mean, she's a girl who loves books, and I like that. I like how they have those moments where they sit next to each other and they talk about her latest assignment that he gave her. This book to read, right? It was sweet, but I wanted a little bit more. Something punchy, because it was really slow for me, that first half. And then, you know, that last half, I'm like, okay, we're finally getting somewhere. We're finally getting somewhere. It's finally moving faster and faster. Especially because you have that tension, the mystery, the heist. I wanted a little bit more of that early on, because it's just so slow early on. After that, I read Everything We Never Said, which I had a lot of misgivings about reading it, but I did want to read it so that I knew what I would recommend to people. It is a mature read. I would say it's definitely a book that you should read in like a classroom setting, which is going to be kind of funny. It deals a lot with young girls being in toxic relationships and being in abusive relationships and having drunken parents. But I do think, you know, that realism there, it does open the door for a lot of discussion. I think it's going to also be important for young girls to kind of recognize what is toxic behavior. What is a toxic relationship? What does it mean to be emotionally and mentally abused and to be in a situation like that? Like, what are your resources to kind of escape from it? So I wouldn't go younger than 15 to read this book, but I do encourage parents to be like, okay, let me read this book first, and that way I can open up this kind of discourse with my young daughter. I do think it's important in that aspect, and I like that this author, she wasn't explicit about it. She writes the story in a way where you can notice the bad behavior, but it's not explicit in that bad behavior. And again, it opens up this avenue for discourse, you know, for discussion, which I think is really important when it comes to books that deal with mature themes. It kind of was a little off-putting that they were like, oh, for fans of Colleen Hoover, and this is a young adult book. I'm like, Colleen Hoover, because of those themes that are in her books, I would not recommend to, you know, teenage girls, just because they are so mature. I am one of those people who's just like, let kids be kids, you know, don't let... I feel like kids are growing up too fast nowadays, and maybe I'm just noticing that because I'm a parent myself. But it's just like, I just want, and then I remember my own childhood, I want children to be children, which is why I say this book, I wouldn't go any younger than 15 for this book. I just wouldn't. Just because of the themes in the book, and they are mature. However, a book I do recommend to everyone is Twelfth Knight by Olivia Blake. Her real name is Alexine Farrell-Fulmuth. This is a book I recommend to all ages. It's so funny. It's a rom-com. I loved it. It's a retelling of Shakespeare's Twelfth Knight, and the book is called Twelfth Knight, and it deals with like gamer girls and cosplay, and just, you know, it has its own version of D&D in the book. Clearly, I love D&D, you know. It was such a breeze to read this book. It was lighthearted, but it was also serious, and it deals with sexuality, it deals with crushes, it deals with so much, but in such a lighthearted, heartwarming kind of way that really just like, aw, like I love it. I loved it so much, and I recommend it to everyone, and I highly recommend it to everyone. It's just, if you're a nerd, or if you like things like Game of Thrones and D&D, and if you are a gamer girl, I mean, it deals with a lot of that stuff, and I think you're really going to relate to it a lot, because I know I did. I related to it a lot. After that, I read Heartless Hunter, so this was my book club pick for my Read Whitson's Workshop book club. Oh my god, I love this book so much. It was so good. It was so good. It just moves so fast, and the enemies to lovers to enemies dynamic between Gideon and Rune was so amazing and so well done. I loved it so much. Like the tension, and there were some parts I was just like, oh my god, I was like pulling my hair out because they were so tension driven. Oh, it's just, and then the trio, Rune, Verity, and Alex, they were the cutest trio. I was just like, nothing bad better happen to any of these guys. I don't want to talk about that plot twist that revolves between those three characters. I'm just like, what the? Jaw dropped. It was just, I was caught off guard. I was caught off guard, and it's not fair, and I am not okay, and I need book 2 now. I need book 2 now. Totally worth the hype. After that, I finished the Library of the Unwritten trilogy with God of Lost Words. The ending fit. It was bittersweet, and I was just like, oh. It has a really good, strong found family dynamics. I mean, this is a library in hell, and they want their own autonomy because the books have souls. The books have souls, which makes sense because as writers, I think we all put a little bit of ourselves into everything that we write, you know, as artists. So, just, it's a book for book lovers. Definitely. It's definitely a book for book lovers. For people who love books, oh, you're going to love this trilogy because it's such a book-loving book. Claire is amazing. Brevity, Hero, Ramil. I mean, these are such good characters, and their whole dynamic is fresh, and it's heartwarming, and that ending, I mean, in hindsight, you know, you're just like, yeah, this is the ending for these characters, and it fits, and it's wonderful and beautiful and heartbreaking and heartwarming at the same time, and just, it was such a great finale to this trilogy, and I cannot recommend this series enough. I really do think everyone should read it. I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons is the book I read after that, by Peter Beagle. You know, this is the same author who did The Last Unicorn. This one's different. It has a different tone than that one. And I have to reread The Last Unicorn. I cannot even remember. I think I was just a kid, and I think it was one of the ones that my mom read to me, and not something I actually read myself. And of course I've seen the movie. But it has a different tone. I mean, I remember The Last Unicorn having a little bit more of a serious tone. This one's a little bit more quirky. You could classify this one as a cozy fantasy, honestly. You have a princess. She's very headstrong. And you have a reluctant dragon exterminator. He hates his job. He hates his profession. He wants a noble profession. And you have the sweet prince, who's kind of adult, but he's sweet. You have an evil wizard, and you have dragons. And it's quirky, and it does have those serious moments that I think Beagle's known for, but it's quirky, and it's fun, and it's engaging, and the story doesn't go in a way you think it's going to go. There are some points where I'm just like, oh yeah, that I saw coming a mile away. But for the most part, I was just like, oh, I didn't see that coming. It was just a story that kept me guessing, because while the ultimate ending I did see coming, like, it was just like the natural conclusion from the way the story was set up. The rest of it, the whole journey, from beginning to end, it just caught me off guard, but in a good way. You know, there weren't moments throughout where I thought, oh yeah, I knew that was going to happen, that were predictable. The ending, I mean, which characters end up with which, with whom, that was predictable. But the journey of these characters, now that wasn't, and I loved it. And I love his relationship with his dragons, the ones that he does get to save, because he hates killing dragons. He's not a fan of it at all. After that, I finally finished the Clue Mystery series in the Ballroom with the Candlestick. Absolutely love this series. It does justice to Clue, and I love Clue. You've seen the movie with Tim Curry? I love that movie. I do. I really do. And this series, it's a little bit more serious than the movie itself, but it's still fun, and it's still kind of quirky. It still has those elements, and it still really does bring the characters. And of course, there are murders, and I love Scarlet when she does find that dead body. She's like, I didn't do it. Remember, this is the third book with our murder crew. She's like, I didn't do it. I will ship Green and Orchid together all the time. 100% I ship them. They are perfect together. And I don't care who disagrees with me. Yeah, they both got their issues, but everyone in the murder crew kind of has their issues. I mean, this is their third book of walking onto and seeing dead bodies. But, you know, I absolutely loved it. It was such a fun, great read. And I highly recommend, if you love Clue, if you love mysteries, if you like quirky little mysteries, definitely pick up the series. It was well worth it. Well worth it. And after that, I read Dark Water. So this is from the Small Spaces Quartet by Katherine Arden. So this is actually like her kid book series. I'm going to tell you right now, she scares me. This series scares me. I remember reading the first book, and I read it at night, and I'm like, why did I read this book at night? What is wrong with me? And then I read book 2 during the day, and every time my AC would go off, I'd be like, what the hell is that? I'm like, oh, right, that's just my AC. And even with this one, I started reading it in the morning, sun is out, and then I just heard something, and I'm like, what's that? And I'm like, oh, that's just my cat. She's really good at atmosphere. She is phenomenal at crafting these really good, oh my god, I could totally see this series on Netflix, but she's really good at crafting chilling, haunting atmospheres that are really going to catch you off guard. And I love the characters. Brian, Coco, and Ollie, they're such good characters, and they're such great kids, and just the Smiling Man himself, I mean, oh my god. What kind of a name is Smiling Man? That in itself is scary, let's face it. That in itself is terrifying. And of course I finished last book of the month with Empty Smiles, the 4th book in the Small Spaces Quartet. Again, Katherine Arden is scary. And let's just admit this fact. Clowns are scary. Clowns are just inherently scary. You got clowns chasing after them. Book 1, you had scarecrows chasing after them. Scarecrows are scary. Book 4, you end with clowns chasing after them. These clowns are terrifying. And I say that as someone who loves Mr. J, although Mr. J is not a clown. Mr. J is not a clown. Let's get that straight. Clowns are scary. I don't like clowns. I don't like clowns at all. It was so creepy. And you know what was a really nice surprise? The smiling man is less scary in this one. The rest of the story is creepy and haunting, and it still like made me jump a couple times. And I'm not an easy person to scare. But unless you're my friend Jeff and you sneak up on me, but he's very sneaky, very sneaky. But the smiling man in this one, you kind of feel bad for him as the story progresses. And he starts off a little chilling, but then by the end of it, the way he and Ollie part, you're just like, huh, like, poor guy. You know, you kind of pity him a little bit. And I like the way the story ended. It ended in a way where if I think Arden wanted to come back and revisit these characters a little older, like for a young adult audience or even for adult audiences, if she wanted to go back to the Smiling Man, I think she has the opportunity to do that in a really fascinating and engaging way. But in any case, those are the 13 books I read this month. They were phenomenal. It was a great month. You know, I really read a lot of good books this month and I really enjoyed it. So yes, thank you all for tuning in to this wrap up. Let me know if you guys met any of your own personal goals. I know my friend Gina, she knocked her goal out of the park. So bravo to her. She read like 19 books this past month. Very proud of her. But in any case, let me know in the description below if you guys met any of your own personal goals, and let me know if you read any of these books yourself and what you thought about them. In any case, thank you all for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your book loving friends. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.